What is going on, everyone? I hope everyone is doing well tonight. I don't know how long we're going to go today, but let me just clean off this camera. Do it the old fashioned way. A little elbow grease. We're going to go as long as I know that there's an NFL game going on right now. We're going to go as long as people are interested. We haven't had this in a couple weeks, but here we are in week 15 with a couple weeks left, and I know that there's a lot of people with some important decisions tonight. So let me see. I know that a lot of people have Christmas and holidays and other things. So how long we're gonna go? Not entirely sure, but if you guys can give this a like, it does help. It does help the reach, and it does help the growth of the getting people in here. So the more likes we have, the more people that join, the more the longer that we will go. We are going to have this next week, I believe. We should. It may be a different time because of Christmas, and then the following week we will not. Maybe I'll do it on Friday. I don't know. This is going to be a tough couple week stretch. I know that really the last month has been sort of crazy, but we'll get into this Q&A and have some fun tonight. So, all right, first question, Kurt, how you doing, buddy? What is my pivot at quarterback for Mike White in DraftKings cash? Yeah, I mean this is one of the more disappointing stories of the week, mostly because look, we recorded a Power Grid show on Thursday night. It became outdated in about 8 hours because we talked about Mike White being the guy. It's unfortunate, but such is life and in having to have hard recording dates. But I think there's a couple options. I think that Justin Herbert at 7,200 is a really strong play. His prop is up to 304 yards. This Tennessee defense is one of, if not the worst in the NFL when defending the pass. They're allowing, I believe, 348, 350 yards average over the last 2 weeks. So you could certainly look up to Herbert if you wanted to. A name that I think is, I don't know. I don't even know if it's sneaky, but it's just like he's getting no love and his price is way too cheap is Tom Brady at 5,500 going up against Cincinnati. Look, Cincinnati is a defense that has been decent this year against the pass, but they haven't been like an elite run stopping unit, or pass stopping unit, I should say. They're allowing 230 yards passing, but there's some signs on the wall because they're missing Mike Hilton, who's their best corner. And their replacements have not necessarily been all that great. So over the last 3 weeks, they allowed 265 yards to Kenny Pickett, 291 yards to Ryan Tannehill. Somehow, some way, they held Mahomes to 223, but then Deshaun Watson torched them for 276. So, 265 or more to Pickett, Tannehill, and Watson. And what's interesting about Tom Brady is he's averaging his home road splits are astonishing. He's averaging 307 yards passing at home. It's as healthy as this team has been all year. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Rashad White is stepping into a bigger role. So yeah, I think that Tom Brady at 5,500 is certainly an option that we can go at the quarterback position this week. If you think about other positions and you think about how we think about the quarterback, I think in cash it's going to be really hard to pay up for a guy like Hurts or a guy like Mahomes. Fields is always interesting, but that game could get out of hand, although he has an inherent floor that is built in because of his rushing ability. He's run for 60 yards and a touchdown in, I believe, his last 6 games, so that certainly helps him. But how this Dallas-Jacksonville game is going to go is certainly interesting. it could go so many different ways. I just don't want to trust that in cash in a GPP setting. I think that's a really strong play to take Trevor Lawrence or Dak Prescott. I think that both of them could have big games, although Trevor Lawrence is in a bit of a tough spot as a second-year player, having to deal with DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons coming off the edge. But he's looked much better over the last couple weeks. DFS top 3 running backs. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is as good of a transition as we can get with just breaking down the quarterbacks for the last 5 minutes. So if I think about running backs this week, I think there's a number of different options, and it's really site dependent. So I think on DraftKings, you have let me start by saying both sites, FanDuel and DraftKings. I think Derrick Henry is the top play. This Los Angeles Chargers defense is missing, I believe, 5. They have 5 defensive linemen, counting Joey Bosa. I know we might some places listed as a linebacker, but he's mostly a defensive lineman. 5 defensive linemen who are out. That's put a ton of pressure on Kenneth Murray, the former first-round pick, who already was one of, if not the worst linebackers in the NFL at stopping the run, and he's only been even worse over the last several weeks. So I don't see a scenario where Derrick Henry doesn't top 100 yards, to be honest. And at $8,000 on DraftKings and $8,900 on FanDuel, I just think that he's going to have a monster game. He would have had a huge game last week, except they abandoned the run when they fell behind 13 points in the third quarter, early in the third quarter, and he only had 2 carries the rest of the game. Still topped 100 yards, but that's really the only risk, is that Tennessee falls really far behind early, because they've shown that their willingness to just completely abandon the run. So that's one. I think that on DraftKings, Travis Etienne is a really good price, $6,000. Hasn't been catching the ball as much as I would like to see, but still a really talented running back at that price. Isaiah Pacheco at $5,900 on DraftKings is a really solid price. I think Pacheco is going to score a touchdown this week. I think he's going to have a big game. He has 15 or more touches over the last, I think it's 5 weeks. I can pull this up really quickly, but I believe it's at least 5. It might be 6 weeks that he has 15 or more touches. No Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's 5 weeks. He has 16 or more touches. No, 15. I can't count. Over the last several weeks. So he's certainly in that mix. Where it gets interesting is how we think about value. And particularly on FanDuel, although you can make the case on DraftKings as well. This Houston situation is interesting because you have Rex Burkhead and you have Dare Ogunbowale, who are going to be filling in for Dameon Pierce. And it's really how we think this game is going to go. So on DraftKings, it's a little bit less because you don't get the severe discount that you do on FanDuel. If you look at FanDuel and you look at any running back under 7K, there essentially is none, or are none, I should say. Like Deontay Foreman is at 6,600, I believe 6,500, something like that, which I guess is tolerable, but really not something I want to target. So on FanDuel this week, and I'm sorry I'm bouncing back and forth, but I know that some people care about one versus the other. I like taking a shot with one of these Houston running backs. And for me, it's Burkhead, because of what it allows you to do with the rest of your roster. It allows you to go up to Derrick Henry. It allows you to go to James Conner, who on FanDuel is a fantastic price at $7,200. On DraftKings, I think at $6,900, he's a little too expensive, although he's going to be popular, and I understand why, because of he's on the field basically 100% of the snaps. But I like him a lot more on FanDuel. So by taking a shot with Burkhead, I don't think you get the benefit of that on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, I do think that looking at one of those running backs, or if Ramondre Stevenson does scratch, then you have Kevin Harris or Pierre Strong, who you could also take a shot on. So I don't know that I have a top three. Derrick Henry certainly there. He's the clear number one this week. Josh Jacobs on DraftKings, I think you can do it. I think you can comfortably build a lineup that has Henry and Jacobs because of the value that is on DraftKings this week. FanDuel, there's no way that you can actually do that without severely sacrificing too much. So Jacobs on DraftKings is a great play. But one name I didn't mention, I do like Miles Sanders more as a GPP play than a cash game play, but I think that he's in a pretty good spot this week as well. And if I didn't touch on any running backs, like we don't have that many people here tonight, much less than normal, which was I was expecting that because of the NFL game, and I get it. Like it's a big game. I'm shocked that 15 people are here, to be honest. We're normally about like 70, so it's pretty big drop off. I wasn't going to do this tonight, and I know we haven't done it the last couple of weeks, which doesn't help either. So, are you playing anyone from the Jets without Mike White? No. You could make a case for Zonovan Knight. He's the only guy that you could like realistically make a case for. The problem is maybe Elijah. I struggle with saying Elijah Moore because Zach Wilson doesn't look to Elijah Moore, but Garrett Wilson's not in play. He's just not, because his price is too high. His price is based off of Mike White, and you are getting 50% of that in Zach Wilson. Like, it's just a completely different offense. If you want to make a case like Zonovan Knight, I'm not doing it because Detroit's defense against the run has been unbelievable lately. And they haven't allowed more than 10.6 fantasy points to an opposing running back since week 8. And that includes, I'm just going to try and ramble it off the top of my head, but Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, and I'm missing one, but pretty good competition there. So not something that I'm entertaining. Thanks, Dan. 2 is a game changer. Hasn't really sunk in yet though. I'm sure it will. Is Derrick Henry a must play on? I think so. Although I think he's going to be incredibly popular. So, like, is he a must play? Probably, but could you get around? I need to shave my beard. What a disaster. That's hideous. Anyway, yeah, I think he's certainly a very strong play. Is he a must play? No one is ever a must play. Like, there's always a chance that he doesn't hit value. What do I think of the Pats wide receivers? We don't really know, right? Is Jacoby Myers going to play? I think that's the biggest question. If he doesn't, I think Ramondre Stevenson is Nelson Aguilar is interesting. He's cheap. He's the only guy that they have left, essentially, besides, who else is on the Patriots depth chart? Let's see. Devontae Parker's out. Like Kendrick Bourne? No, not doing Kendrick Bourne. Aguilar would be the only guy that they have. And realistically, like, does that help Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris? It might. That's certainly an interesting way to go about that. It's hard to say. I mean, if Myers plays, like, Myers is a decent play. Am I going to run out and like say, hey, you have to start with Jacoby Myers? No, I think that this game could be like a total disaster. I just don't know how to read the Patriots because on paper they should not be as good as they are, but somehow they find ways to just win games. So if Stevenson plays, it doesn't, John. If Stevenson plays, I don't think he's going to be 100%, which I know the matchup's good, but he would be more of a GPP play for me this week. His price, like, let me just look it up on FanDuel because I don't want to misquote it, but I don't think his price is particularly attractive. Ramondre Stevenson, yeah, 8,500. I mean, that's absurd, you know. I don't know. I'm hoping we'll get one of those Adam Schefter like 3 a.m. tweets that we'll wake up to in the morning. If Stevenson doesn't play, I think we have a decision to make because then it gets really interesting as far as Pierre Strong versus Kevin Harris. Kevin Harris significantly outsnapped Pierre Strong last week. 29 snaps to 19. I know the game was a blowout. I know that it was pretty much, the Patriots had control over that game for a lot of it. And I tend to think like Pierre Strong is probably the more talented running back than Kevin Harris. They chose him, not that this means anything at this point, but they did choose him 2 rounds earlier in the draft. They're both rookies. But the Patriots waived him and signed him to the practice squad versus Strong, I believe, has been on the roster the entire year. Yeah, he's been on the roster the entire year. So I think if I had to pick one, it would probably I've gone back and forth a couple times on this, but it would probably be Pierre Strong. But in the morning, maybe we get information that changes that. So I don't know. Sub 7K wide receivers on FanDuel. Let's see. It's brutal. Zay Jones at 6,300, I think, is going to be popular. It's a tough one. Like Chris Moore at 6K, I don't think that's a good enough discount, to be honest. I was hoping he was going to be like 5,700, 5,800. It's fine. Like I would rather play him than Mac Hollins. I would rather play him than Michael Gallup. I would rather play him than Drake London. But there's not a lot out there. I mean, Deontay Johnson is interesting at 66. Deontay Johnson leads the NFL in targets without a touchdown this season. So he has 15 touches in the red zone. I think I was looking at this earlier today. The next closest receiver in terms of touches without a touchdown is either 8 or 9. And Johnson has more red zone touches or targets, I should say. I keep saying touches. Targets. So carries plus passing targets. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has 6 touchdowns. So one would think like Deontay Johnson is due to score a touchdown. Whether or not that comes this week, I don't know. But and it's more of a DraftKings play anyway. But I really like the receivers like right in that 7K range. I like Chris Godwin a lot. I like Chris Olave a lot. I like Christian Kirk a little bit. T. Higgins at 75 is a solid play. But once you start getting under 7K, and that's where I'm talking a little bit about like maybe you do have to take a chance on FanDuel because of the the pricing this week. There's really just not a lot there. In taking a chance on a Rex Burkhead or a Dario Gumbawale, like I said, I prefer Burkhead because of his pass catching abilities. And if this game gets out of hand, are they throwing the ball most of the game? I would assume yes against Kansas City, which tends to get me to favor that it's going to be a Burkhead game. But my guess is as good as yours. You have to pick one: Olave, Chris Moore, Brian Robinson. Without knowing if it's PPR or not, I think that Olave is certainly a better play than Chris Moore. I don't think that one is particularly close. I like Chris Moore, but I don't trust anything in Houston, to be honest. So that really gets you down to Robinson versus Olave, and it goes back to like what you need. I think there's a couple things. One, if it's half point PPR or zero PPR, Brian Robinson is the clear play there. If it is full point PPR, you have more of a decision to make. Brian Robinson is safer. He's going to be more guaranteed for a certain amount of points, probably guaranteed for like 6 or 7. Olave, with the receiver, there's always more risk. But Olave probably has more upside. So I would probably go Olave unless you say like, hey, I think I'm in a really good spot this week. I'm assuming this is a season-long league, and you just say, hey, I'm in a really good spot. I'm favored. I just can't afford like a 4-point game. I think Brian Robinson gets more than that. Thoughts on Najee Harris versus Carolina? The problem is Najee Harris isn't catching passes, which last year Najee Harris caught 74 passes. Over the last 5 weeks, Najee Harris has caught 0, 4, 1, 1, 2. And his touches have gone down considerably as well. 12 touches, 17 touches, which like 17 for 86 against the Falcons. Okay, fine. You can live with that. But 10 for 35 against Indy and 12 for 33 against Baltimore. These were not blowout games in either direction. They were close games. I expected this Carolina game to be close. I can't touch Najee Harris until like something in his role changes, to be honest. Is Godwin or Evans the better stacking option? If I knew the answer to that, I would be a much richer person than what I am. I look homeless with my beard. It needs to go. Joys of having a kid and not sleeping. Evans versus Godwin. I think it's Godwin for me. Like Mike Evans, is he hurt? Is he just not getting separation? Like he is 29 and has always sort of been a slower receiver, but 4 catches, 2 catches, hasn't scored a touchdown since week 3. Like this is not the Mike Evans that we're used to. And that's where I'm struggling. Like at least Godwin is getting the red zone looks. Like let me pull this up. Tampa Bay red zone stats. Come on. Red zone stats. Here we go. Yeah, Godwin has 15 targets. Mike Evans has 12. Did we ever think we would be in a world where Godwin had more red zone targets than Mike Evans? No. I mean, unless there's a massive disparity in price, Godwin 6,700, Evans is 62. Yeah, it's Godwin all day. Hunter Henry, like he's fine. He's fine. Let me see if I'm missing something. Like I said earlier, I mean, the Patriots are my bug. I don't want to say the wrong. The RG3 quote has me all confused. I think it's bugaboo, and if I misspoke that, I'll issue an apology. Um, I don't even remember what he said, but it was a word I hadn't heard, so I'm going to say it's bugaboo. Hunter Henry, 3,300. Like, if I think about Hunter Henry, he's a. If Jacoby Myers is out, I think he's fine. I would like to see him have more volume. Does he have the upside of? Does he have the upside of Evan Ingram? No. Does he have the upside of a Cole Kmet? Probably not. But at 3,300, you get a significant discount compared to him. I'd probably rather have Chig Okonkwo, if I'm saying that properly, at 3,100 because of Traylon Burks' injury. I think that he's in a spot where he's probably going to be a better play than Hunter Henry. The problem is Hunter Henry just doesn't like one catch, four catch, one catch, three catch, two catch, three catch. Like, it's not enough. And I know he has some 30+ yard catches in there, but I'd rather take the shot at the rookie. Any interest in Ritter? No. He's not a name that I've really thought about, to be honest. I'm trying to do this on the fly, which like I sort of just wrote him off unfairly and maybe fairly. I don't know. But if I think about Desmond Ritter, he's not Justin Fields, right? He's as a runner, he's more like a Russell Wilson or a Deshaun Watson. Like, you get inside the red zone, he can run. He's not going to run for 60 yards. So like, if he's not going to run for 60, 70 yards, his prop is 23 and a half. But yeah, I don't know that he has the upside. I don't know a scenario where he has the upside. Deontay is just not good. Okay. I don't know what to do with that state. I mean, 6 for 82 last week. He finds the end zone. He's great. I might not like the guy, but the guy had 1,100 yards last year. I don't know how you can say he's not good. FanDuel Cash is strong the lock if Stevenson's out. I think so. I think that's where I'm going. The whole thing has me nervous because of Kevin Harris out snapping him. And I was set on Kevin Harris and I was, but I need to go back and watch that Patriots game. So like admittedly I was out to dinner kind of watching it last Thursday. I believe it was last Thursday. Yeah. Wasn't really paying that much attention to it. So I need to go back and watch that one and see if and maybe you guys know if Strong was getting all the work early and then Harris came in late. I don't know, but it seems to be the consensus is that it's going to be Strong if Stevenson is out, which is sort of where I'm leaning. FanDuel Cash, low 8K, Fields, Herbert, Burrow. It's not Burrow. It's either Herbert or Fields. And it's a tricky one because it's probably Herbert. Like, I have Herbert ranked higher. In my article that I do for football guys that I release on Saturdays, I'm just trying to pull this up. I had Justin Herbert as my number 2 quarterback. I had Justin Fields as my number 4 quarterback. So I don't see a scenario where Justin Herbert doesn't throw for at least 275 yards and 2 touchdowns, which at his price, like that's what, 8, 11, 15, 19 points. That almost gets him to 2.5x, which is like the minimum I want from a quarterback. I think Herbert has 350 and 4, 350 and 3 upside. His prop is at 304, which I believe is the highest non-Patrick Mahomes prop this season. It's a perfect matchup. I don't know how many, like if you're into props or not, but like we have Justin Herbert projected over 300 yards. Tennessee is averaging giving up 300 yards passing. Justin Fields is great because of that rushing upside, and he's sort of built a floor, which is, hey, 60 yards and a touchdown rushing, and then that's 12 points. But what, at some point that has to stop, right? I mean, it's great that he's done it for 6 or 7 straight games, but some point that gravy train is going to come to a halt, and you're going to get stuck holding the bag. So the Eagles are big favorites in this one. It's a hard. I like Justin Fields a lot, but I feel a lot more safe with Herbert. Thoughts on Kamara? He's really cheap, and I looked at him really hard, and I couldn't get there. I'm assuming you mean on FanDuel, but the matchup is a decent one going up against Atlanta. However, this is a guy who hasn't scored a touchdown in 5 weeks. He's averaged second. Averaged 9.6 carries per week and has not topped 42 yards rushing over the last 5 games. Now, he's a player who at any point can break out and have a massive game. But the days of him consistently catching 6, 7, 9 passes like he was earlier this season, he's now catching 3, 3, 4, 6, 2 and not scoring touchdowns. I think there's an upside there. I think he's a fine GPP play. But as a cash game play, I want more than like 12 touches guaranteed or 10 touches guaranteed. A lot of people say, hey, I don't really care about the targets, or I don't really care about the touches. I think that's inaccurate. I think some people overweight them, like the whole Greg Dulcich thing, which I kind of like Greg Dulcich this week, but like there are bad targets, and you know, everyone and their mother running out and overloading on Tyler Higbee because he was getting 11 targets a game. But if they're bad targets, they're bad targets, right? Sometimes they're just throwing at the feet of a tight end or overthrowing somebody just to get out of bounds. Like targets aren't everything and touches aren't everything, but Kamara needs to do more consistently for me to trust him. In a 20 max DK, have Patterson running back in 2. Should I leave him in? Cordero Patterson, I would assume. DK price on Patterson. Admittedly, not a name that I've even thought about. The matchup isn't particularly great, but like he's in this range where he's going to go under rostered, and we actually have him projected to be decent. I think 2 is fine. If you wanted to go 1, it's fine 2. Favorite quarterback on FanDuel is Tom Brady. Looks like we have some spam. Let's block them. Season-long PPR flex, Juju or Foreman? I would go Juju. Foreman hasn't caught a pass in like a month. Allen or Williams with Herbert on FanDuel. FanDuel's a tough one because I was debating this earlier today, actually, and for me, it is Mike Williams on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's clearly Keenan Allen because of the touches, because of the full PPR, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Problem is, like I was just talking about, there are bad targets, there are bad receptions. Keenan Allen has 14 targets in each of his last 2 games. Hasn't gone over 100 yards. And if I think about, I like both actually, but if I think about FanDuel, Keenan Allen is $8,000. It's too high for a possession receiver that doesn't have the breakaway speed to catch a game-changing, quick play touchdown. If I'm going up to the 8K range, I want a guy who is either consistently topping 100 yards or has the opportunity to, or has the ability to have a complete breakout game. And I don't know that Keenan Allen is there in terms of having that ability to have that complete breakout game. Like, would I rather have A.J. Brown over Keenan Allen this week for $200 extra? Probably. Would I rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown for $400 extra? Yes. And if you're considering Keenan Allen, just find a way to get to Devontae Adams at 85. It's sort of how I think about the week. Meanwhile, Mike Williams is down at 72, and he's more in the range of Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Smith, Christian Kirk, Chris Olave. Mike Williams is arguably the best receiver in that bunch. Mike Williams had 110 yards in his return last week. I think he is in a really good spot. So I think it's a combination of price. It's a combination of, if all things were equal, I would probably take Keenan Allen, but they're not equal, and it's not a full PPR. So, DraftKings cash, Harris, Foreman, or Knight. I'm assuming that's Najee Harris because Damian Harris is out. I'm not going Harris. I'm not going Foreman. I guess I'm going Donovan Knight. Harris and Foreman just don't catch enough passes. And like Donovan Knight can catch 4 passes probably pretty easily. Say easily, but is anything really easy? With Zach Wilson there, I don't feel great about the Jets. However, and I certainly don't love the matchup against the Lions. However, 3-4 catches for Donovan Knight gives him a significant advantage, especially over Foreman. Thoughts on Christian Watson? Not on the main slate. Haven't given any thoughts to Christian Watson. But at 7K, yeah. I know he scored touchdowns in what? I mean, he scored 7 touchdowns in 4 games, which is 8 touchdowns in 4 games, which is probably why we're interested. Certainly not in cash, but in a GPP play, for a GPP play, I think he's fine. Herbert, Henry, Burkhead, Lamb, Williams, Kirk, Otten, Connor, Broncos. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it's fine. It's not that far off from my lineup, to be honest. I like a lot of those players. Is Herbert, Eckler, and Allen too many Chargers in a DK cash lineup? No. It's not too many. Depends what you're doing with the rest of your lineup, to be honest. I certainly wouldn't be able to get Derrick Henry in there, which would be my biggest concern, but Could Eckler catch 6, 7, 8 passes and negate some of the Derrick Henry stuff? Sure. Eckler's not going to be able to run, so most of the work's going to have to be through the air, which is the only risk. But certainly Herbert and Allen are going to be popular. So if you just say, "Hey, I want Eckler too," I think that's fine. Pick 4 of these full PPR. You're going AJ Brown. You're going T Higgins. You're going. Wow. I mean, I'm not playing Hollywood. I think he's out. I think you need to play Hopkins, even with Colt McCoy. So now it comes down to Travis Etienne or Christian Watson. And hold on. If I think about this, and I think about Watson versus Etienne, look, Watson scored 7 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. I get that, which touchdowns are fluky, though. They really are. And I really don't want to let that skew me. Even just looking at odds to score a touchdown on DraftKings, it's Etienne is favored. Christian Watson's plus 140 to score this week. So I'm going Brown, Hopkins, Higgins, Etienne. I don't know. That's a tough one. I understand the question, but it's a tough one. Is Goddard officially out? I must have missed that one. Yeah, he's not activated. Okay. Higbee, Logan Thomas, Tunyon, or Hooper. Let's see. Higbee, Thomas, Hooper, or Tunyon. Yikes. I have that 3 of those guys projected within a tenth of a point of each other. So trying to see where other people might have them projected. Hooper, Tunyon, Higbee, Thomas. Hooper, Tunyon, Higbee, Thomas. I'm going to go Austin Hooper, I guess. Let's just hope this game's a shootout. I don't know how to answer this question. Like, my brain is broken 30 minutes into this, which is pretty cool that we've had questions the entire time. I wasn't expecting this. I'm sorry. I don't know how to answer this question. I have Hooper, Higbee, Tunyon all projected within a tenth of a point of each other, and Logan Thomas 0.3 of a point less than those guys. It's nothing. If you want to root for one of them, if you have a gut feeling, if you want to flip a coin, like I don't know how to answer it, to be honest. Is it wise to play Justin Herbert, one of his receivers, and Derrick Henry in one lineup? Yeah, I think that's totally fine. If the Titans are going to keep this close, how are they going to keep it close? Well, Derrick Henry is going to have to do that. And if the Titans get out to a lead, how are they going to do that? Derrick Henry is going to have to do that, which means Justin Herbert's going to have to throw and throw and throw. So I think the Titans' only path to keeping this game close is through Derrick Henry. So if this is a shootout game, I think it's going to be on the legs of Derrick Henry. Also have a McKinnon and a few to get to Jacobs and Henry. McKinnon's fine. I don't love it, but I would probably like look down at the cheap wide receivers. I don't know that McKinnon gets enough of a discount, although I think you're talking 20% max, which like fine. If you want to take one or two shots on McKinnon, like it's not the end of the world. What two guys do I bench from this group? Bam Knight, Garrett Wilson, DeAndre Swift, Jerry Judy, Brian Robinson, or Zay Jones. Good Lord. Good Lord. Swift. I don't know if it's it is full PPR. Let me just see. Swift, Wilson, and Wilson. Like, I know I can't, but I want to. Knight, Robinson, Jones. Okay. I would bench. A lot of these are close. I'm playing Jerry Judy. He's the only guy in town. I am benching DeAndre Swift. Those are the two easy decisions. So now I have to pick. Sorry, my computer charger got unplugged. There we go. So I'm playing Judy. I'm benching Swift. So Robinson, Zay Jones, Bam Knight, Garrett Wilson. I have to bench one. Probably going to bench. Depends if you need upside, and I hate going back to this, but if you need upside, I think you bench Brian Robinson. If not, I'm benching Zay Jones. If you need like a floor and you feel good about your matchup, I think Zay Jones has the lowest floor of that group. I don't love playing two Jets though. And it's really hard to bench Garrett Wilson, but I might just because I don't trust Zach Wilson at all. Can I elaborate on why I like Miles Sanders? Sure. Miles Sanders has topped 140 yards in 2 of his last 3 games. The Bears are one of the worst run defenses in football. They have one of the worst front sevens in football. So defensive lines and linebackers. They traded Roquan Smith, who was their best defensive lineman. They traded Robert Quinn. They have, I would challenge anyone here to name someone on the Bears defense. Most people couldn't do it. And if I look at the Bears, they are allowing 114 yards rushing per game, in allowing the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. The Eagles are going to be favored. They are favored by more than a touchdown, which should help the running game go through Sanders instead of going through Jalen Hurts. They're 12-1. They're not going to risk Jalen Hurts in an outdoor game in the cold in Chicago. What's the point of creating designed runs for him? And Chicago's pass defense, while it's starting to show cracks, has been decent. And when I say decent, let me just quote the right number here, but Chicago against quarterbacks, they're allowing 210 passing yards per game, which is the 5th best in football. The reason for that, it's not that it's some elite unit, it's they're facing the fewest passing attempts against as a unit. So like everything is pointing to, if the Eagles wanted to come out and throw 300 yards, they probably could. The Bears are by no means a shutdown unit, but the stats don't lie, and 210 yards passing per game is a little bit scary. And I think Sanders is going a little underlooked because of his pass receptions have not been always there. So that's that question in a nutshell. Hopefully that answered it. Is Okonkwo, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, worth a look? Yeah, I think he's probably the cheapest guy I would look at, to be honest. I don't know that I would go any lower than him. Kate Otten, you could maybe make a case for, more so on FanDuel because he's 4,400 or something stupid. But like to me, I want to play Evan Ingram. I want to play that could be point chasing too, but Evan Ingram or um, Fryermuth or Kelsey, or I'm fine with Okonkwo, but Dulcich is fine on DraftKings because they have nobody else to throw to, and Brett Rippon, which like this one's interesting, and some of you guys might take this as a little bit of a nugget. You look at Brett Rippon against the Jets earlier this year. Greg Dulcich had 9 targets. Jerry Jeudy had 11 targets. That was in a game where KJ Hamler, Cortland Sutton, and Kendall Hinton all played. So they're without all 3 of those guys this week. That passing offense is entirely going to be built through Dulcich and Jeudy. Panthers D or Packers D need upside. I would go Panthers. I think the Panthers have big upside going up against either Trubisky or Mason Rudolph this week. Any thoughts on Gallup? Not really. Yeah, I mean, everyone is on Zay Jones because Zay Jones has done it, right? I mean, you look at Gallup and outside of a 2-touchdown game against the Colts, on which he had 4 for 23, he hasn't done anything all year. So is Waller worth looking at? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, I know Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller were both activated. Darren Waller wasn't all that great before he went out. So, like, I'm going to give it a game to see how he looks. Yeah, I don't love Eckler on FanDuel, to be honest. I think he's overpriced. Any kickers? I'm the wrong guy to ask, man. I don't even play in season-long leagues that have kickers, so I'm in one league with a kicker, and I've had Daniel Carlson the entire year, and I've spent 0 time even thinking about it. But I'm also a terrible season-long player because I think the most amount of moves I've made is like 4 or 5. I mean, this is I always laugh about it because it's in a group of longtime friends, and they expect, working with football guys, but I'm on the DFS side. So all of my work is thinking about this week. I have a full-time job as well. So doing essentially 2 full-time jobs is not a lot of time, and trying to spend a little bit of time with my family during the football season. My own personal leagues get put absolutely last. So I don't make very many in-season moves. I consistently forget about waiver wires. I have forgotten about lineups on given weeks, but it's because I'm putting out other content for just this given week. But, I will say that those of you who are subscribers, cracking FanDuel has been the best year we've ever had. I do give out my personal FanDuel lineup that I'm playing every single week, and I think we're 11-3, 11 or 10-3-1, something like that. There was a week where we pushed, and I don't know if I counted it as a win or a loss. So, yeah, I think if you're playing on FanDuel and you're saying, hey, I'm really struggling at 10 or 15 bucks a month, whatever we're charging now, is something you guys should really look at to say, hey, I want to drastically improve my DFS game, because I put about 12 to 15 hours a week in that specific article. I also do a DraftKings GPP article. That's another 10 11 hours a week. So I put a lot of time into those and don't really spend much time on my season long stuff. Okay, well, that will end it. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. I appreciate everyone coming out and hanging out. I know that there's football. I know that there's family stuff going on. I know that I look homeless, so having to look at my mug for an hour is not necessarily all that much fun. And with that, I will thank everyone. If you guys could give this a like so that people could come back and find this. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It's free. Just click the red little subscribe button down below. Not asking much for it. So it just helps the channel. So with that, I will be back next week. I don't I don't know what day. Maybe Friday night. Just because Saturday night is New Year or Christmas Eve, so I'm sure everyone is going to be busy, including myself, wrapping and spending time with family and that type of stuff. So maybe Friday night, but I will tweet that out. If you're not following me on Twitter, I highly encourage it. Devin Knotts FBG. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.